Have you ever feared that anything you do or anywhere you go has a darker side to it? Well, get ready for one true scary Tinder story. Let me preface this by saying that this story happened when I was a lot younger and less worldly wise about the creeps of the world. Had I known then what I know now, this story would have ended before it began. This story begins when I, a 16-year-old girl, got bored one day and decided to download a version of the Tinder app. After a couple of swipes, a guy's face popped up, and what intrigued me most was that he did not have his name in his profile. Think M Spark instead of Mark. Now, he didn't seem like a rapper, so I swiped right out of curiosity. We matched straight away and began talking just run-of-the-mill conversation. What do you do for fun? Been to any parties recently? That kind of thing. After a bit of digging, it emerged that he went to the school at the bottom of my road, so we arranged to meet that weekend. At this point, I didn't even have his name, but felt too awkward to ask it after we'd been talking all that time. Saturday came, and Mark turns up about 20 minutes late. He's carrying a rose, presumably to make up for the fact that he's only around 5'2", which had been cleverly omitted in the photos he posted. I'm not usually into short guys, but I humored him and we went and sat in a park in the town center to talk. We talked for about 2 hours about everything and nothing at all, until Mark asked me if he could be so bold as to kiss me. I was flattered but declined. He persisted, saying it was very important, until I lost my temper and asked him why. He explained to me that he suffered from sex-based migraines, as if he was deprived of sexual contact for too long, he would get an excruciating headache that would render him immobile for 48 hours. Although I was naive, I was not stupid enough to believe his nonsense, but I wanted to get home quickly after this meeting had turned sour. I leant over and gave him a quick peck on the cheek and hurried away into the piercing parlor across the road, where the owners knew me and talked with me for an hour until I felt secure enough to get the bus home. I thought this was the end of the encounter and traveled home calmly. My mother and I have never had a strong relationship, and I didn't want to talk to her about it, so when she asked about my day, I just brushed it off and said I met a friend for lunch. After dinner, I went upstairs to my room and pulled out my phone. My stomach dropped. There was a Snapchat notification from M Sparks. My username must have been on the profile I set up on Tinder. How stupid of me, I think back to now, for I could have avoided a good many unsolicited dick pics otherwise. I gingerly opened it. It was a 10-second video of him lying on his bed at home, looking dazed and confused. The caption, "Look what you do to me." I realized that he was actually faking a migraine and filming it to send to me. I blocked the account and sat watching TV for a while. No harm done, I thought. Wrong again from knowing where I went to school and the fact that I have an unusual spelled first name. A friend request came in from Mark a couple days later. I declined and he sent it again. I was a little weirded out, but he seemed to have mutual friends with me, and from his profile I could learn more about him, i.e. how to avoid him. Big mistake number 2 passed me. The messages started pouring in, starting with, "I really enjoyed today, hope we can see each other soon," and ending up with such gems as, "I need you." I laughed and blocked him again. One day, as I was waiting to get on my bus to go to school, a familiar face smiled at me from the bus stop. It was Mark again, this time with his friends. I wasn't suspicious. My bus stop was opposite his school, and I vaguely knew one of his friends, so I smiled, talked, and made pleasantries until my bus came. This was to be the first of many encounters with Mark, all of which I brushed off as coincidence. He lived and went to school in the same part of town as I did. It was uncommon for me to go a day without seeing someone I knew. The last encounter I had with Mark was on my way to meet a friend. The week before, I had severely twisted my knee playing netball, and was struggling to walk from my bus stop to where my friend with the car had arranged to meet me. As I turned the corner, who should appear but Mark, smiling widely and greeting me with a wave. He asked what happened to my leg. I told him it had been a netball injury. He asked where I was going. I told him I was meeting my friend. He asked what time I was meeting her. In about an hour. He said his house was right around the corner, and putting his hand firmly on my lower back, he offered that I could wait there with a cup of tea until my friend came. I tried to protest, saying I would be fine waiting in a cafe, but Mark insisted and half guided, half pushed me to his house. When we got in, I asked if I could use the bathroom, to which he said yes and showed me to. I texted my friend after locking myself in there and said that a guy I vaguely knew had let me wait in his house and could she pick me up from there. I didn't tell her the whole story as I didn't want to worry her and or have her phone my mother, with whom I would have met a worse fate than with Mark. Mark then knocks on the door asking if I was okay. I said yes, but that I'd be out in a couple of minutes, and he agreed to wait downstairs for me. When I let myself out of the bathroom, I walked downstairs to find Mark lying motionless on the floor of the living room kitchen. I panicked thinking something had happened to him and went to check his pulse. As I reached down, his hand shot out to feel my breast through my shirt, and he weakly croaked out, "Need release." I battered his hand away and tried to stand up to get him a glass of water. "Need you feel me." His trousers, which I had not looked at until now, were unbuttoned, and he was now stroking himself, eyes now open and locked on me. I freaked out. I ran up the stairs and struggled with the lock on the door, hearing his slow footsteps getting closer. Just as I was opening the door, his voice called out from the other end of the corridor, "Could you at least clean my oven, then?" I whisked the door open and slammed it behind me, almost in tears at both the pain in my knee and the sheer weirdness of the situation. After limping a couple of roads from his house, I rang my friend and said there was nothing to worry about, but could she please hurry? She was right around the corner at this point, and we drove off with me telling her everything in between shaky breaths. The weirdest thing about this story, a couple of days later, I ran into Mark again. He acted like nothing had happened from that day, offered me some gum, and then caught a bus from my bus stop. It was almost as if he didn't remember anything from that day, and I sure as hell wish I didn't. I haven't seen him around in some time, but that could be because he's gone off to university. He's the right age to have. So, Migraine Mark, please let's not ever meet again.